When I was browsing my social media one day, a post caught my eye. It was a card game to play with your friends. Now you have to know I hate 99% of board and parlor games out there. They are just not for me. I am not that type of player. While there are games I enjoy, Exploding Kittens comes to mind, most of them bore me. How could a card game I found on social media of all places be interesting? A game, I might add, that is not even out on Kickstarter yet. What was it then that piqued my interest in the game? Honestly, the name, Triggers. That sounds endearing and refreshingly non-PC. The game is described on its homepage as a card game designed to provoke animated discussions among friends. But how does it do that? To find out, let's go over the rules. First, you have 3 types of cards. Question cards, the cards with questions on it, duh. Answer cards, yes and no cards, there is no maybe. And privilege cards. They are basically action or attack cards that you can use to win the game more easily, and the effects are written on the cards. They have to be played at the beginning of each turn to take effect. You cannot play them at any time. When setting up a game, each player, ideally 3 to 9 players play the game, but it is up to 18. Each player gets distributed 1 privilege card and 1 yes and 1 no card. Both question and answer decks have to be shuffled. Who goes first is decided by whose birthday is coming up next. Now, what does the gameplay look like? One player draws a question card and reads it out aloud. All players, excluding the one who read the card, vote on the question by placing either yes or no card face down on the table. The player that did not vote now has to correctly guess how the majority of voters decided. Either yes, no, or if an even number of players voted, if it is a tie. After the player declared how they think the outcome is, all players reveal their votes. If the reader guessed right, they can keep the question card. This counts as 1 point. If he guessed wrong, the reader will get a privilege card. If all players voted unanimously, everyone gets a privilege card. The turn is now over and moves clockwise to the next player. This goes on until the one player has 5 question cards, which equals 5 points. Okay, but what do I think about the game? I really enjoy the concept of this game. Many of us crave deeper conversations about topics that are not the weather. This game is not trying to be funny. An obvious comparison would be Cards Against Humanity if you have no idea about either game, because one game is more like, hey, this thing exists, isn't it funny? While Triggers does encourage a conversation about it. This is also cool because this game is not based on shock factor and you can play the same round multiple times, possibly because people can change. With different people you have different reactions and maybe you can change your mind. But it is very important you need to have friends who are comfortable arguing without malicious intent and do not take disagreement as a personal offense. Otherwise, this could lead an evening into disaster. Still, I think this game could get some improvements, and since it's not yet out on Kickstarter and in development, I'd like to give some things I think could be made better. First, I like the fact that there are light-hearted questions like, do you keep your ketchup in the fridge? And do you believe in ghosts? Or do you like pineapple on pizza? But also harder-hitting questions like, is there such a thing as an objective truth? What I'd like to see is some sort of coding where people who are not used to arguing can choose an easy mode deck without very political questions to ease them into it. Off the top of my head, I think of a point system or maybe color-coded cards. What I think would be really cool if the reader has the ability to get extra points if he maybe changes someone's mind. So if one person says no, and he really has a good argument against or in favor of that, and someone changes his mind, that he gets like an extra point. You can't get a second card, that you don't have the question card as points, but the maybe like coins or something like that that would allow that, which I think would be a good idea. The art style is really boring. While I mostly like it simple, this seems somewhat uninspired, especially the logo. It also reminds me of the Taboo phase of the game Taboo, which could become a legal problem, so I would advise a change of style. Maybe give it more of a yield sign or more details on the character, which I assume is supposed to be inspired by a stop sign. Privilege cards. Some are really dumb. This is not any criticism, I enjoy that. They can really release tension after a heated turn of arguments. Triggers, the game, is a really interesting concept for a card game, and I did enjoy playing the demo. Yes, it has a demo. You could have skipped this entire review and tested it for yourself. That's why I'm telling you now at the end of the review. Just visit triggersthegame.com, link is in the description, and you can sign up with your email and get the demo PDF to print out and play for yourself. I personally really enjoy the demo and can't wait for it to get on Kickstarter, and I'm really interested what type of cards and what type of questions the developers will think of next, and if they implement any of the ideas I had, or if they even have better ideas, which is very likely. I hope you enjoyed this review and see you in the next one.